Gonzalez.
All right. Hello, I'm Celeste Gonzalez. You might have seen me carrying around a gallon of water. Wait a minute, on the clicker. Let's get into it. Okay. You might have seen me carrying around a gallon of water. That's because I am a bodybuilder, and I will actually be back here in about 4.5 weeks for my very first show. Other things about me that are more SEO focused. I'm the director of Blue Labs at Rickety, which is our own way of saying SEO testing. We're a boutique agency, mainly focusing on local SEO. We also do e-commerce and other things as well. I write, just like Jamie had said, spoken. This is my second time at BrightonSEO San Diego. Very excited to be here in track 2 this time. And yeah, I'm also judging the Search Engine Land Award, so I'll be doing that pretty soon. All right, let's get into it. So we're talking about search experience optimization. And it's another acronym, SXO. But if you're here, I'm sure you've kind of bought into it already, or you're kind of curious. So let's get into why that's important and why we should be shifting our focus there. So this is from Search Engine Land. In 2024, nearly 60% of Google searches ended without a click. Ahrefs did their own study somewhat recently where the presence of AI overviews in search results correlated with a 34.5% lower click-through rate for the top ranking page. So, clicks are dying. I'm sure you've seen it on your own sites or your client sites. And then, this was pretty cool because I was editing my slides and last month we had Google saying actually AI in search is driving more queries and higher quality clicks, and all of our surveys and like what we're seeing with our data and how we're presenting it is flawed. So if you're confused by that, just based on what your own, your own experiences and what you're seeing on your websites, this is why we get into search experience optimization and making the most out of your clicks because they're dying. So you want to make sure that every single one of them counts. So once again, we can't control the clicks. We can't control what's going on in the SERPs. We can't, really worry too much about everything that's going on and changing. What we can do as SEOs and focus on is making sure that each click counts and that in addition to earning the click, we're earning the scroll and we're earning the next action or the next step that happens for users on a website. So yeah, this is how we get the value out of everything. Also, this is a cartoon-themed slide deck. Last year I did SpongeBob and I had some requests to keep doing that. So get through some other classes. Okay, so search experience optimization. That is the intersection of SEO and UX. So basically, we are combining some user experience principles here to make sure that we are engaging the users and those who are visiting the website and trying to meet their needs as quickly as possible. So why is this important? Aside from the fact that you should just be doing right by your users, I'll give you some of the technical things as well that clients like to hear. Okay, so the Google algo leak, we all saw that. Google tracks long clicks, so functionally the same as dwell time. We want to know how long users are staying on a website before bouncing back to search. So it is ranking signal, it's something that's considered. And then here we have another patent. So Google uses mobile first indexing and gives more weight to that above the fold content. So what's showing up on a page before users have to scroll. And it impacts the overall scoring and ranking. And then I gotta bring it up, AIO visibility, that whole thing going on. So this was a really good article on the Women in Tech SEO blog. Talks about how user signals are influencing that visibility as well. So if it wasn't just enough to do right by your users in the first place, here's a little technical proof. And lastly, conversions. None of this stuff matters if people aren't converting. This is why your clients are paying you for SEO because they do want to see people come visit their storefront, add to cart, make a purchase, book a consultation, whatever, the desired action is there. So we've got to focus on the above the fold content. This is your first impression. When a user goes and clicks on your site, whether it's from Google search or something else, this is immediately what they're seeing, and it lets them know if it's relevant to, you know, whatever they were searching for, whatever they were expecting to see once they clicked on that page. All right, now we'll get into a little basic psychology when it comes to impressions. We have the halo effect, which is a positive first impression. So basically, when a user loads the page and they kind of know that, okay, this is relevant, this is something that I was searching for, this is going to likely give me the answers to whatever I was hoping for, I will scroll. This was, what was it, a 2006 study from like Carleton University. I didn't include it because 2006, it's already 20 years ago. But it was like, you have like 50 milliseconds to make a good first impression on the website and to like get that user to scroll or complete an action. That was already 20 years ago, and especially with how attention spans are a lot shorter now, I'm sure the numbers are much smaller. I haven't found any more recent data than that though. And then we have the horn effect. So the opposite, a negative first impression will lead to more frustration, and you're gonna have less of that willingness to work with you. So who here has played The Sims before? Yeah, so you know when you start talking to someone new and immediately you get the little red lines and you're like, oh my gosh, I just made a bad first impression. And they're going to walk away from me now. That's kind of what happens here when you visit a website. So if they get to the page and it's not what they were expecting, there's a pop-up, whatever it is, it's distracting, they're less willing to work with you, they're less willing to scroll, they're less willing to make it to the next page. So, with that being said, the basics of all that stuff is just your above the fold content elements. So, you're gonna have a hero image depending on the page, you're gonna have an H1, an H2, maybe H3s. Maybe you'll have some social proof on there, maybe some call to actions. Pretty basic, right? You guys already know that. So, now what? This is where you're going to start looking into user behavior data. So this is sort of our workflow and how we work on things at Review Room. You observe, gotta gather that data, identify, find those trends and patterns that you're seeing, analyze it, figure out what's going on, maybe why are they doing these things? You know, you're hypothesizing, I believe people are doing this because of that. And test, measure, and scale. Figure out, you know, what it is that you want to improve upon, and use certain tools, which I'll go over, to figure out what's happening and where you can improve upon so you can eventually get those conversions and actions that you want users to complete. All right, so your user behavior data. This is your bread and butter. This is where you're going to start with this. You need to find the friction. It's everywhere. You're going to see it on every page. There's always something that can be improved. And you know what? Maybe it may not seem like something that makes sense to you, but your users, it's not clicking for them. So you've got to make sure that you're working with what you're seeing in session recordings, heat maps, things like that. So if you have session recordings, you're going to be able to literally see their confusion and see that they're clicking on things that maybe they shouldn't be clicking on, or you think they shouldn't be clicking on. And you can turn this into opportunities for growth and improvement. All right, so some of these tools, you might want to use Hotjar, Microsoft Clarity, Crazy Egg. For my examples purposes, I'm talking about Microsoft Clarity, full disclosure, I have an ambassador for them, but I really like them because they're free. Pretty easy to get clients to say yes to free, and hasn't slowed down any sites that I've worked on. All right, so with Clarity, we have heat maps, session recordings, time on page, dead clicks, rage clicks, scroll depth. These are the basic metrics that you'll see on there. However, you can integrate it with GA4. They have smart events, so you get to see like the types of conversions that you're tracking there. You can do funnel tracking as well and set those up. So, getting into the dead clicks, rage clicks. Dead clicks are when you click on something, a user clicks on something, they expect an action to be taken, but nothing happens. And rage clicks, we've all done it, something's not loading fast enough usually, so you click it like multiple times, you're waiting for something to happen. So rage click, those get counted as well. So, in taking action, let's just start with the heat maps here. You have 4 different types to work with. There are click heat maps, so you get to see exactly where users are clicking on a page, where they're not clicking. You can see the scroll depth and see how far users are scrolling down on the page, what percentage of users are making it to a certain point on the page as well. Conversion, if you have a Shopify site, you can see conversion heat maps as well. And attention, so you can see where people are spending the most time on the page as well. All right, so we can get into some basic examples here. People are not scrolling on your page. Move things around. Change up the content layout. Figure out how to get them to see what you want them to see on the page. There's no clicks, or maybe there's a lot of rage clicks, or a lot of dead clicks. Well, if there's no clicks, maybe you want to fix your internal linking. Maybe the anchor text there isn't good enough. It's not exactly letting users know what that next page is or where you're leading them to. Or maybe it's misleading and they're like, I don't want to click on that. Change it up, test it around. Rage clicks. Maybe something isn't working, something's broken, maybe something is too slow. And then dead clicks, maybe it's something that you thought like users wouldn't really care to click on, but it actually seems important to them. Maybe it's an image. They want to be able to click on it and zoom into it. You'll be able to see this specifically when you look through the heat maps, see what they're clicking on, and then move into session recordings to see specific examples of all of this. So perhaps, and you won't know until you actually dive into the data for yourself and see what happens, because it does vary page by page and site by site. So testing. This is how you get your clients to buy into this. You present it as testing ideas to them, because that's what this is. Every single time you're going to change something up to hopefully improve that user behavior data to get them to the next page or to a desired action, it's a test. So as long as you're measuring that and communicating that to clients, you should be able to get them to buy in. All right, other ways of just explaining to clients quickly. Well, if you get a user to stay longer on the page, if that's a metric that you're tracking, they might be more likely to convert. You convince them to stay longer. You convince them to probably click on an internal link or fill out a form, pick up the phone, whatever that is. Users make it onto the next page. You're impressed by the pages per session metric that you're tracking. You're leading them down the funnel. That's exactly what you want, because not every single page is one where you're going to convert someone immediately, but if you can take them to the next step, that's equally as important. And if there's some sort of issue like rage clicks, excessive clicks, or dead clicks, there's a problem to be solved there. There is something to fix, and there's something to reduce friction, make things easier for your users, and get the most out of that click or visit. And lastly, happy users equals more conversions down the line. That's kind of our job. It's like, yeah, we're trying to get people to visit the site, but if you can't get them to do anything, then what was the point? Why is the client paying you? So you're going to want to gather both your user behavior data and your Google Search Console data, possibly your GA4 data. It honestly depends on what you're going to be specifically testing there. But it's nice to have multiple data sources and get the best of both worlds. So just some examples of things that we've tested out. Hero images. Large hero images take up valuable space above the fold. So this is just one of the results that we got from removing it. So this is for a specific local client, pages per session increase, time spent on page increase, scroll depth increase. It was nice, great, right? However, just like I'm sharing these tests and these test results, I encourage you to do your own tests. Just because we removed hero images here and we saw nice results, or might have seen like increased conversions, doesn't mean that you'll necessarily see the exact same thing. Like if this was a photographer, you'd obviously want a nice hero image there, because that's going to get people to scroll. Then we have contact page testing. A lot of contact pages suck, and there is a lot of things that you can do to try to fix it to make it a lot easier for users to convert on those pages. So we were seeing tons of dead clicks on a phone number. we fixed that, boom, phone call clicks increased. It's not rocket science there. Another thing that matters when it's doing your own test, we recently redid, Backlink did that ChatGPT using Google search test. We redid it on our own and we got completely different findings from them. Doesn't mean that their test is invalid or anything towards their test, but it's just another way of letting you know that you shouldn't take everything to fact and you should make sure to test it out on your own. All right, above the fold content, we decided to work to fix that on the homepage. It was struggling with keeping users engaged. Lots of people were bouncing back to the SERPs, or they were just immediately getting to the navigation because what they saw was not what they wanted to see when they first landed on that page. So we updated it, this was for a music client, we added in our programs button, so the user saw that immediately. When they loaded the page, we got users to get to the Our Programs page, and from the Our Programs page, we saw that the CTA button for a specific program, I think it was like the violin playing, saw a huge increase in clicks, and we were able to let the client know that we funneled more users down their buyer's journey. And then an accordion test. This is something that SEOs talk about, they talked about quite a bit before, like Twitter and have their debates on removing accordions and whether it made an impact or not. We decided to test it for a client. So we saw that clickbacks were reduced. Clickbacks on clarity or when users bounce back to the page or SERP that they were at before. We got more people to stay on the page. We got more people to scroll. And then we had an increase in conversions. We had more people requesting more clicks by 66.7%. The one thing that we looked at and were not testing for at all was that their rankings improved too. So not the goal of the test, but it was an observed improvement and the client was happy. All right, so to wrap things up, clicks are disappearing. We know this, our clients know this. I'm sure they're asking you about it or have already asked you about it. So what we can do is focus on what we can control. Can't control the SERPs, but we can control how we get users to the next page or to that next desired action. So we can focus on what's going on the site. And using the user behavior data, literally what users are telling us and exactly how they're interacting with things on the website, we can help get our clients and stakeholders see beyond clicks and rankings and see the importance of this. And this is the shift. SXO is more about value. We're all about reducing friction, getting users further down the funnel, getting them to fill out a form, add things to cart, visit the storefront in person. Thank you. You can connect with me here. The slides should be posted on LinkedIn. I had like a scheduled post as well.